My ribs are broken. I don't know how to speak the language. And this man actually leaves me in the bush. My chances of survival were really nothing. And I began dying of blood loss.
Kia ora, hello, and welcome back. This is the Let's Talk Near Death podcast. I'm your host, Kirsty Salisbury. We're talking all things life, death, experiences in between, end of life, supernatural things, you name it, we probably talk about it. Today, I'm chatting with my guest, Robin Landsong. Now, I do apologise if you're on the video version. We have had a couple of glitches. We cannot seem to get the video working smoothly. However, the voice is. So if you're on the audio only platform, you shouldn't notice any difference. But we will do the best that we can to make this as smooth as possible. My guest today is Robin Landsong. She is a near-death experiencer. She's an artist and a healer. At just 8 years old, she had a traumatic event which led to a profound experience where a woman's song brought her back to life. Since then, Robin has used art, storytelling, and song to help others to heal and strongly believes in the healing power of the human voice. I'm so looking forward to getting into this. So, Robin Landsong, thank you for joining me for a podcast conversation.
Yes, I'm really excited to be here. And your work is just so interesting to me also.
Oh, thank you. It's all over the place, if I'm honest. There's a lot of different parts to it, but I think it's really important. And I love that we're here today to talk about these experiences and talk about life and death and what the intersect of that might look like. You were 8 years old when you had your experience. Are you happy to go back to then and share that with us?
Yes, and I'll just say I've just finished my book finally after 16 years. It's out in the world. Yes, so Loving Bravely, it is out in the world. The audiobook I did myself, as well as the printed book. So that's available in the world for people to read. And I've just been really honored by how people have responded. And so I'll dive into my story, and I'm going to kind of preview a little bit of the hard stuff with kind of the really golden moment of, in my death experience, like you say, it was my adoptive mama who called me back to life with her medicine song. And so I'm just going to start out by singing to the audience. So many people come to Near Death podcasts for, they have concerns about dying. They have concern about their loved ones who have died. So I'm just going to sing to those concerns right now. Shunea ho am yo am nayam ha am
That was beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And again, as you know, the gifts of our near-death experiences, for myself, of course, I had to do so much trauma resolution, and I'll get a little bit more into the story so people understand that context. But once we do the trauma resolution piece, once we get to the meaning-making part, which is a huge investment, then there's the giving back, the full cycle of the hero's journey, so that we go through this incredible challenge, we go through the confusion, the being lost, and coming back full circle. At this point, it's very easy for me to help others in their trauma resolution, in their grieving, in their orienting to their purpose, to their vitality and their life force. And so much of my work is about connection, because that's the key of why I share my story. So when I was 8, I'm American and I was living in the US and I was abducted. This is 1977, post-Vietnam War, a time period well before Child Protective Services was developed, well before conversations about child abuse were more public and more available. This is well before security at airports are what they are today. So people ask, well, how could he abduct you and take you out of the country? And I say, actually, quite easily. He was a psychopath, and he was, as best as I can understand, going to be a mercenary in the Rhodesian War, which Rhodesia is now Zimbabwe. That's above South Africa.
Mm.
And so they were recruiting for more people to fight on the side of the white government. So he abducted me, he assaulted me, he ended up, went probably once he had to go into the field, he gave me away to another man after he had assaulted me. So here I am, I'm in a foreign country, I'm just figuring out like, oh my God, I thought maybe I was in some part of America that was quite foreign, and I'm realizing I'm in Africa, my ribs are broken, I don't know how to speak the language. And this man actually leaves me in the bush. So I think, okay, great, this is going to be the end to my 8 miserable years. I'm just going to let the sun dry me up, and this will be the end of me. But what happens is I'm picked up by a truck full of soldiers that are fully armed. I don't understand that I'm in the middle of a 3-way civil war. And so I think, okay, this is going to be the end, and it's going to be much quicker. I'm going to get shot, and it's going to be much faster. But what happens is they take me to a place that I now know was one of the most dangerous places during the war. My chances of survival were really nothing. One soldier had an argument with another soldier. One wanted to shoot me, and one was protecting me as an innocent child. So that soldier won the argument, got me out of that space, and dropped me off at a village he thought would be sympathetic to a white child. So I spent the night in a tree alone. I didn't understand the number of wild animals who could climb a tree. And in the morning, it was the women singing. They were grinding corn and singing, and that really drew me in. And so I went towards them, I was hiding behind trees. And they ended up bringing out water, bringing out some boiled cornmeal that's called mealie meal. And this was the beginning of my first experience of true family, of true welcoming. Because I had come from a family that had the generational disruption. My parents didn't know how to care for their children. I was experiencing lots of abuse in my neighborhood and in my family. So safety was quite foreign to me. And so these women welcoming me in was a really new experience for my body, for my being. And so the next morning, the children were welcoming me in. They were touching my hair, touching my white skin. And they took me to the fire circle. And there they were covering me with black ash. And one of the girls was telling a story about my arrival from her perspective. And so it's in Venda, so I don't understand what they're saying, but I get the idea that it's a story about, and she came from far, and she's with us here now. And so what happened next was, after that welcoming from the children, I experienced the first mothering of my life. The woman who would be the one to adopt me as her own. She called me over to her, and I was used to not looking adults in the eye, but she was calling to me, singing to me, she was inviting me to look her in the eye. And when I finally looked her in the eye, I literally collapsed in her arms. I was exhausted from taking care of myself, from surviving the abduction, the assault, making it on my own. So she held me in her arms, And my singing is different than hers, but again, she opened in me how to welcome and sing to somebody's soul just as she did to me. Hey, I am here. Oh, I am. Ayo. Am here. I am ho. Oh, I am. Hey, you. So this became my new life, belonging in this new family, in this, there was a cluster of huts. It's called a homestead. And I was learning how to plant food, plant the corn, and I was learning the songs. They did ancestral ceremony. I was being taught the songs. And honestly, there was no mirrors, there's no running water. So I forgot that I was white. I was beginning to forget my former life. And as an 8-year-old, I was just really adapting into where I was belonging now. So I didn't understand again the context of the danger of the Civil War until some of those dangerous soldiers came back into the village, were kind of yelling at the elder men, and I hid under the skirt of one of the other mothers. And again, I didn't understand the context of like being white at that time was not only a danger to me, but a danger to them. And so they literally hid me. There's they actually put black shoe polish on my skin, which was one of the tactics of the white soldiers, so they wouldn't be spotted, so that I wouldn't be spotted.
My goodness.
One day, the 2 women took me to a creek that had clay in it, and I undressed, and they put that healing clay on my bruise, on my ribs where I had been assaulted, and they sang to get the hatred that came with the assault from the abductor off my ribs. So again, I'm going to sing in kind of a fierce way. So if anyone who's listening needs to clear off the energy of an assault, an oppression, something that was created wounding, where the perpetrator of harm was kind of taking their self-hatred and imposing it on them, then may this singing help clear off any confusion and help it go back to the source where it can be recycled. Showoe, sheyowai, shamea, yeyo, ye, sheayo, sheaye, sheam nayo, ye. So with that clearing off, that reorienting, they called me to sing with them. And when I could sing with them, they considered that, they nodded to each other like I was going to be well. So one day I went back to that creek that was a very positive memory for me. And unbeknownst to me, a battle was starting right in the perimeter near that creek. Now I understand a soldier was scouting that area. And when he spotted me, he instantly raised up his gun. And when his gun barrel became just a circle, I knew this could be my last breath. This could be my last moment. And I didn't understand. His skin was black, just like the people who had welcomed me in the village. And I couldn't understand his hatred towards me, that the other people were being so loving, so welcoming, so nurturing. So he was so close. I could actually see him pull the trigger of the gun. And what I now know is that scopes are designed for distance. So his scope was off. So he was probably aiming at my forehead, but because he was so close, the scope was off, and the bullet grazed the top of my head, blew me off my feet, slammed me to the ground, and I began dying of blood loss.
Oh my
And
goodness.
when I crossed over, the first beings I met were two women. Their skin was black, and I now realize it was a younger version of the two mothers who were taking care of me in the homestead, in the village. And they were showing me that I could go home to Source, this huge golden glowing sphere. And I was a bit confused because I still wanted to be part of this African family. And so I was searching on how to get back to this realm, to this life. So even though I could have gone home to Source, it would have been gentle and loving, I still had to work through my attachment to this lifetime. So that sent me backwards. I landed in a place that, interesting enough, was like Ireland on a cold day. So I just visited Ireland and went to some stone circles that were really just like my death experience. It was quite powerful for me. So there I met a being who appeared to me as an old rickety man, but I began to understand how powerful, how steady he was when he offered me his arm. And so he helped me up. He led me into a dark cave that some might consider a hell realm, but I consider a purification experience. And so there in that dark cave, I needed to face all my unexpressed emotion from being a child that couldn't call out for help when I was being abused by, again, my family, my neighborhood. And so once I had cleared out more of that unexpressed cries and calling out for help, my guide looked at me and I could see how full of fear my body was from my 8 years in this realm, the human realm. And he wasn't trying to change me, save me, fix me. And I suddenly realized, and I really want to pass this to the listeners, there was nothing wrong with me that needed fixing. That there wasn't something about me being a child that made adults abuse me. That I realized with him not trying to change me, that the confusion was with the adults who were doing the harm, and that I was born fine and I was still fine. So, yeah, it's a really important point for people to understand because there's so many things still in the present about that kind of tell us that healing is putting it behind us or healing is just affirmations. And I would advocate that healing is around self-compassion, saying this too belongs to the fact that we were victimized, we were injured, we may have been oppressed, and to stay steady with feeling the feelings from those experiences so that we can get to the transformation, so we can regain our self-trust. Because that, as you know, is the core of so much of our transformation is self-compassion, self-trust, regaining our voice. So that guide in that dark cave helped me learn that. We went out from the dark cave and we were standing in this place where the stars were like living relatives. And here's the beauty of having done so much art. I recently just did an art show. I'm in a big space and I was able to get out 25 years of art into this space. So I, for the first time, got to see all of it in one place myself. And what I'm communicating with my art, and it comes from my near-death experiences, is no matter what we've walked through, what we've lived through, is our belonging to divine source really is unmutable, no matter what. So even for perpetrators of harm, there is still a belonging, and my hope for all the ways we may have done harm unintentionally, thoughtlessly, is that accountability, taking responsibility for ourselves and our lives, and this might be a theme in your book also, taking accountability is the pathway to freedom. It is
Mm.
the pathway to self-forgiveness. And if we're going to try and build forgiveness with others, that accountability, taking responsibility for our lives, is the pathway to the foundation to all healing in
Mm.
ourselves and in relationship.
Yeah. Sorry, carry on. I'm totally with you here.
Mhm.
Carry on.
So I'll continue with the death experience. So I went on to meet many more beings. And again, it was this purification of anything where I was confused, thinking I was unworthy or that I was less than. And one of the beings I met, I'm going to hold it up to the camera, even though we know that the video is glitching. This is one of my drawings on a mug. And so this is one of the beings I met during my death experience. And I first met him as a man and then experienced his face change to a lion. So I happen to be drinking my tea out of this mug right now. And so he taught me that we are all interconnected. We are linked with one another. So your healing can become exponential in the world. That the more we do our healing work, the more our words, our voice, our presence is a resonance to give other people permission to also do their honest healing work, come home to their authenticity. So again, I call him my royal shepherd. He guided me to be above my body. And at this point, my Mami Atan, my adoptive mother, she had found my lifeless body. She was stopping the blood flow on top of my head where the bullet had grazed my head. And she was wailing into the sky. And I was rising up with my royal shepherd, looking down and wanting to comfort her. So again, if people have lost someone recently or years ago, there is an ability from my near-death experience that we are looking down and seeing your love and wanting to comfort you and letting you know we're just fine. That my death experience, I was held, I was guided, and that I was not in pain. And so again, I continued with this guide, and more beings flowed through me as I went home to what I call the great heart. I was being more purified so I could handle the magnitude of the love that I was going to receive when I reunited with the great heart. So just as I was getting to reunite, just a moment away from, breath away from reuniting with the source that sung me into being, my mama on this realm had called on the ancestors in the land to sing a song to call me back to life. And when that song reached me, it reminded me I had not done my purpose, which is to be part of the choir of medicine singers. So we know those who are there to sing at birth, sing at deaths, sing at important moments, unions, weddings, sing us into remembering our original name. So again, I'm going to sing to that, just as they sang to me. Shoy, hi, om nai, I am, he, oh, whoa, whoa, hey, yo, I'm not, yo, hey, yeah, yo. So when I heard this calling song, I had the choice of going home to the Great Heart or coming back and being part of the choir of those of us who sing medicine songs. And so I chose to return. And as I did, I met another being, and this being appeared to me as the face of a cougar. And she said to me, when you go back, it's going to be incredibly difficult. There will be tremendous loss. And we're going to give you an extra breath of life, an extra dose of vitality so that you can withstand what you're going to lose when you go back. And someday when you are safe again, we are going to give you image after image for you to draw, to remind yourself and remind others of their belonging here on the other side of the veil, the source where we all came from. So with that, I went back closer to the veil, and there was what I call the grandmother of all of us. To me, she was the union of all races, the original mother. Her skin was black, her eyes were all colors, they were a kaleidoscope changing. And she sang inside me as if I was a cathedral, and she was reminding me of my original purpose, to love others through singing medicine. So with that, she sent me back. I was reunited with my mama, who was holding my body, and I felt like the wind could blow through me, and just I was crackly leaves. And it was my mama's groundedness, her connection to the earth, that helped me feel like I'm gonna make it. And others came and they took me back to the homestead, to the village, and they sang prayers and put plants on me to help me reunite with being alive. And of course, my intuition was wide open. I could hear all their thoughts, all their intentions, know their emotions. And all of that was just as clear to me as looking at their physical body. And so, again, I'm going to kind of summarize the next part since it's all available in my audiobook and physical book, that the soldiers came back and the village was attacked. The best I can put together, this is about 2 days after I was shot. And everyone I loved didn't survive. And so one of my other mothers, she and I were, I was on her hip. We were running to escape. She was shot from behind, and she yelled at me to keep going. So with the bit of strength I had, again, I had just had my death experience from blood loss a couple days before, 2 days before. And so I didn't make it very far. I ran for a little bit. When I went from clay to sand, I fell forward, and I had a second death experience. And this was very different. And this being's key message to me, knowing just what had happened to me, that I just lost everyone I loved, his message to me was, out of destruction comes new creation, meaning that which I thought was going to be there with me for the rest of my life is now broken in pieces, lying before me, never to be put back in the same way again. But those pieces, he was going to help me make meaning of it over time, and that he returned me back to life because the feeling I got from him was he was going to help me make meaning and be the storyteller for those who no longer had a voice on this human realm. And so that's why it's been so important that I wrote my book, because I was not only sharing my experience, I was being I am the storyteller of the love that I was given. And my mission for 16 years in writing this book was to write it in a way where the love came right through the pages, to speak my audiobook in a way where people have a direct experience being loved by my Mami Atan, by Atto, the man who was so good to me. And so that has been a real joy for me in sharing my story, um, to just finish so people can feel complete with that timeline in 1977. I ended up being taken across the river, given to a white farming family. They ended up taking me to a hospital because my head injury had gotten infected. From there, it was figured out that I was American. An agent guided me on a plane back to America. I was reunited with my family, and their response to me arriving back with broken ribs, a wound on top of my head, clearly being highly traumatized, their response to all of that was to tell me to never speak of what happened.
Mm.
And that is still the case. My parents are both are crossed over. They never asked me what happened. There was never a dialogue. My siblings are in denial, do not ever want to know what happened. And
Wow.
so part of the reason I love to share my story is to create family, be family for people who don't otherwise have safety in their biological family. Because
Yeah.
some biological families just run by that. If we don't talk about it, then it never happened. If we
Mm,
remain in denial, then we don't ever have to deal with it. But the sad part is you're dealing it within your nervous system every day.
mm,
That which you
mm.
don't metabolize makes your decisions for you in life. So that's why I got a lot of training in trauma resolution. I'm a craniosacral therapist, which means I help people's nervous systems get reoriented and regain agency to deal with that which needs to be compassionately witnessed. When we can say this too belongs to our shadow, to our grief, to our anger, we end up becoming agents, stronger agents of our life.
Robin, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm actually really struggling to stay present and I keep going, I've got to switch back into interview mode because I don't know what just happened for me, but I feel like a bit of a puddle on the floor right now. Just the not even the music, just the singing and your words, and there's something very present in even the tone of your voice. I can't quite explain it. Yeah, I'm just actually having a moment of wow, what just happened, and trying to come back in to make some sense and to ask all the proper questions and be a good host and all of that. But I'm really struggling because that was just incredible. Something personally just happened for me.
Yeah, so let's go with
Yeah,
that. So that somatic inquiry about what did just happen. So transformation's, of course, messy. Transformation isn't cognitive. It's so body, it's so somatic. And this is why I love doing the singing and having,
mm,
even my mama and Atto are coming through me now. I'm leading what I call transmission meditations, which are I do online and in person at workshops. And so it's this somatic, this body embodied experience of transformation. We often have trouble putting words to it, but just
yeah,
watching the energy, watching pain come up, watching our joints, watching our breath, our heart, and that's the medicine of transformation. That cognitive, talk therapy, they have their place, and I did a lot of work in that also, EMDR therapy, but it's the somatics, it's the body, it's the breath of
yeah,
life moving through us in a way that our mind doesn't get to make sense of. That's the
yeah.
real key.
That's exactly what it is. The mind can't make sense of it. And I mentioned how I think that music is so good for our soul, and that there is so much healing through singing and music and just having that expression. And I think you can't put words to this. I can't tell you why that's good for the soul. I can't tell you all of that, but something very significant can happen. And there were just so many layers of your story where I'm thinking, wow, that works because of that, or that wouldn't work because of that. And my brain's trying to make sense of it all. But then just what I'm feeling in my heart and my soul as you're sharing is so much bigger. You talked at one point about how I can't get the words correctly, but something along the lines how we need to take responsibility for the things that happen in our life. And it's okay for these things to happen. Does that align with what you said, or have I totally picked up on my own thing there?
Yeah, so that key of the balance of self-responsibility and self-compassion. So accountability is not yelling at yourself to motivate yourself for change. Because that works short term, the research shows that works short term, but self-compassion isn't like this mushy, like, oh, you know, didn't show up for what I said I would do, but it's okay. So there's this wonderful balance of, like, I'm going to use an example, like if I get a cold, and I really love giving my sessions, I really love giving my workshops, and if I have to cancel something, I'm really sad about it.
Mm,
So, but I drop back into it's difficult to have a cold and just be in this self-compassion place that's got spaciousness. So all of craniosacral therapy from the biogenetic model that I do is about giving spaciousness to the nervous system, spaciousness to the emotions. One of the sessions while I did with a really lovely Irish woman when I was just on my tour in Ireland, and and in the beginning, what I'm doing is I'm using my hands and my heart to give space. So allowing this person to come to me and have their biology tell my nervous system what needs to be witnessed with compassion, with loving kindness. And what she said was, oh my gosh, you're not imposing your agenda or your methodology on me. You're waiting and waiting spaciously for me to tell you what needs to be witnessed. And I
mm,
said, yes, you totally get it. And she said, you're giving me space to say yes, versus so many medical procedures, you know, like they might be a very good outcome, but some of the premise in some of how medicine is done is intrusive. It's, you need this, so I'm going to do it right now, and I'm going to not wait for your consent. So, our true healing is waiting for consent, waiting for permission. And that right there has sometimes been the whole healing session. So, so going back to like, why is the singing helpful? It's inviting people's being, nervous system, soul, organs to be able to come meet my voice as they
mm.
choose.
That really does make sense for me. Creating this space rather than rushing into things. There's
Mm-hmm.
something physiologically that happens as well.
Mm-hmm.
I have wondered in the past, Robin, I've got this nagging question at the back of my head. If music is so good for us, singing is so good for us, and it creates this beautiful physiological response for healing, why do you think some people are so gifted in the area of maybe tone or rhythm or something along those lines, and then other people can't hold a tune? You say you can't hold a tune to save yourself, but why isn't music just such a massive part of who we are?
Mm-hmm. So my understanding in terms of like when people struggle with being tone deaf, that we can sing as well as we can hear. So, there could be like an ear issue in terms of being able to
Ah,
hear tonality to be able to correct for tonality. So, a lot of times when I'm singing, I close my eyes because I'm listening on multiple levels. So I'm listening to the tonality and I'm listening to what feels kind of like a bingo of like, okay, for this person, this is medicine. And I'll feel that something just drop into place. And so I'll keep repeating that. And of course, this is from divine source, not Robin's personality,
Mm,
that this singing is just asking this other human body, this other human being, what medicine is needed today. So what I do when I have people sing in groups, and I will say I was just in Ireland and it was one of the most amazing group singings because it's a culture of people who sing more often.
mm,
And is if somebody is having trouble with being tone deaf, I just get really physically close to them so they can feel the vibration in their body. They can feel the vibration in their sinuses. And I just have them say, I just ask them to listen to me and listen to the vibration, because that's really what we're going for. And a lot of people have been hemmed in or feel blocked because they've been asked to perform rather than resonate.
mm,
If we
mm.
ask people, can you make some vibration with your voice? That's a much softer invitation than can you get up on the stage and perform, this scale and have it be perfect, which
Yeah.
is, and then just kind of, some people's bodies and vocal cords are up for that and their mind is up for that. But the majority of people, the invitation to make resonance with another person who is having an easy time singing, that's a
Mm,
gentler starting place for a lot of people.
mm, mm. Yeah, because I can resonate to that. Ask me to sing anything. Singing is one of my biggest fears, I think. I haven't really processed this too much. Um, I can get up and I can talk in front of hundreds, probably thousands of people and not have an issue with it. But get up in front of two people and ask me to sing, that is absolutely terrifying for me. And yet I believe it's such a positive thing to do. I sing a lot in the car. Um, I I think it's just so good. It's something about how it feels. It's yeah, those vibrations in even like the voice box, and there's just something so beautiful about it. And yet some of us are so afraid to do it.
Because it
I have thought
includes,
about this before. I've had questions around this. So you're just getting all the rawness right now.
oh, beautiful. And and it's really validating for the listeners because how many listeners are struggling with the same, it's vulnerable to sing.
Oh, but it is. For me, it's literally I think there's not many more things that I would be afraid of doing than singing publicly. It is a scary place. But
Mhm.
there's also beautiful power. I've done work in hospice environments and I've been with people in end of life situations, and we've got groups here. I assume they're all over the world. I assume so, but groups that get together and they sing to people right
Mhm.
at the end of life.
Right, the
And
threshold times.
yeah, they bring in just the most beautiful sounds. And I remember talking to the group once thinking, oh, this is amazing. I wonder if I could do this. And then being terrified of it at the same time. And then they said something along the lines of, we're just here to be of service. You don't need to do an audition. You don't need to have a certain criteria of ability. Because what comes through that is the intention behind it more than the quality of the singing. But tell you what, those people that do the singing just sound like angels. They just somehow it all comes together and they're there with people right on the brink of leaving this world, of passing over through that veil that we talk about so much.
Mhm.
And it's just something so stunning. As you were doing your singing, I was really getting quite lost in it. Yeah, beautiful. Now, I'm assuming that the language that you used, was that Zimbabwe? Was that a local tribal language or?
It's interesting. When I went back, it's quite different than like what, there's so many tribes and languages um, in Africa and even in that area. It's like, I think there's
Mm,
nine languages, like, just between Zimbabwe and South Africa.
mm, it's a
And
lot.
so what is interesting to me is that when I've gone to Native American ceremony and sung, and that's kind of where I got what really helped me open up and kind of give myself permission was actually a Native American ceremony that I did. Gosh, that was like when I was 26 or something, and I'm 56 now. And people came to me afterwards and they said, "Oh, it sounds like early Hopi," or early Shoshone. So I think what got opened in me during my death experience is listening to the song in the land. And in that ceremony, I dropped into vision, and the vision that I received was that the Ammonites, which are like kind of early, even before Nautilus, so we know kind of the Nautilus stone, that the Ammonites were early ancient ocean creatures. And my perception in this vision was that they sang to each other just like whales sing to each other. And that I am, and then the land rose up, what was ocean became fossils, and that I'm singing that song from the Ammonites singing to each other. And that the reason it sounds similar to several Native American languages is they formed their language listening to the land. So I'm in California area, and so that's my sense is if I moved, somewhere else and was there for a couple of years, that the songs would shift to the land and the songs that are in the land there.
It's amazing how things transition, even even within the music. Do you ever wonder why this happened to you? Going back to 8 years old, why you? Did you pre-plan this? Did this need to happen for some reason?
Yeah, that's always an interesting question. If you'd asked me that when I was in the gritty years of my trauma recovery, I would have gotten very angry because it's like, how can you say that there'd be something good coming out of this? But
Yeah,
now,
right.
so I always like to honor that. If people are really early on in their trauma resolution, I really discourage asking why and just asking what. What do I need to do to get through this? What does my trauma resolution look like? So what in the early stages is a better question than why. At this point, I can say with all the meditation I've done, I meditate like 30 minutes to 90 minutes a day for the past 24 years. With all of my meditation, I can say, I think I came in asking a question like, can I remain loving in the face of hatred?
Oh, wow. It's a big one.
Yeah, next lifetime, I'm going to ask, can I sit in the sun and have a tea delivered to me all day?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I've had many lifetimes of being in much more tribal, collectivistic culture. It's very hard for me to be an American in this highly individualistic culture
Mm,
that is, from my nervous system and my soul's perspective, is the self focus is it's just hard for me to be in this culture. That's why I travel so much.
yeah.
Trying to visit other places that there is something more collectivistic or more, socialist of or caring for one another more than is currently happening in America.
Yeah.
You know, of course, that there's plenty of great people here too. So yeah, just really wondering like, what is it to be loved in a community? What is it to give back to a community? What does belonging really mean? And when I've done 2 return trips back to Zimbabwe, and they were incredible to reunite with Mayamu, the granddaughter of one of the second set of women who saved my life. And the second time I went back, they did an ancestor ceremony and invited me right into the center, which was extremely unusual to invite a white person into the ceremony. And I dropped down and had a vision. And what I was shown was this thorn in the side of humanity. And the ancestors told me, reach your hand out and take the thorn out. And I said, I don't know how. And they said, stop disowning your power. They just weren't having it. And so they said, put your hand out. So I put my hand out near the thorn and I drew my hand back without grasping it. And I took the thorn out and I said, what is this made of? And they said, us versus them thinking. I'm better than, you're less than thinking. Superiority and inferiority thinking.
Mm,
The
mm,
ways human beings categorize a race, a gender, a group to be less than themselves or the inverse. And they said, this is your project. And I was like, you want me to work on inequality in the whole world? And they said, we didn't tell you you're going to do it alone. that you get to meet all kinds of great people around the world who understand what belonging really means, and that
Mm.
welcoming each other on a, as much as our capacity is, with discernment, of course, about who we welcome in, but that's really the foundation of equality, is doing our own trauma transformation work, welcoming ourselves home, and being in relation with others that is founded in this too belongs, you too belong.
Mm. I think it's one of the most foundational things as humans that we need to feel love, to feel part of something, and to feel like we belong.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's within a family, a community, an environment. Yeah, I think it's one of the foundational things that we want out of life.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like it matches worth, and yet it so doesn't, but to feel worthy.
Yeah, and that we do get some of our self-esteem and self-view and self-worth in relation with others.
Mm, mm,
There's
yeah,
this, there's just kind of myth that if you just give yourself enough affirmations, you'll have self-esteem and self-love. And that's not actually how mammal biology works. We are in relation with one another. We do need touch and comfort and being witnessed and being seen, which you know so well in the death work.
yeah, we really need connection, don't we? We really do. And I think that, yeah, right to the very end. Yeah, there is so much in your experience, Robin. Thank you so much for sharing it. I have a lot of questions still, but like I said, I'm kind of just struggling to actually show up right now. I'm still just in the space of what just happened. Apologies to our viewers, but I think you get an idea of what I'm like these days. Is there anything that you think, any of the big questions that you think we've missed, or
Just the invitation for people to show up in their strength, show up in their gift, which includes our vulnerability, so that, the Creator designed each of us, and that when we just breathe in and out, when we cultivate our presence, we are a gift in the world, and that is plenty to show up in kindness, in compassion,
mm,
and that's what the world needs more of, and that's what I like to help people get to.
I love it. I feel like you have so much knowledge. You're talking about all these modalities and all of these beautiful things. We've got all your show notes down, so all your links down in the show notes. So go check that out if anyone's listening and thinking, I really want some of this or some help. I know people tune into this because some people have had an experience, not necessarily a near death experience or a death experience, they've had something take place. And there's a little bit of curiosity, or there's people questioning, I don't know my purpose. I don't know what I'm meant to do with my life, because we talk a lot about purpose within the podcast episodes. I think what you just said about just showing up and being kind and showing up to just be a decent person is often the first step towards being in our purpose. And so I just feel led to say something there. Perhaps someone's listening and they're really struggling with this, that we don't necessarily always know what the pathway looks like or what the purpose is. And I've mentioned in other conversations, I think purpose changes throughout time. But yeah, I just resonate with so much of your energy. I can actually feel it around. Let's just try and be decent people and have connection and show up well and do the best with what we've got. And really just acknowledging this physical journey that we're all on, because they're so unique, they're so individual, and they're so real. Like I said, we have all of your links down in the show notes. People, if you want to get in touch with Robin, you can do that. Check out that book, it's beautiful. And when you said that you had the audio version, I went, oh, I'm in trouble, because just your voice does something. It's got something to it. And I thought, if I listen to your voice for a whole book's length, then my life is about to change. So I'm quite excited to check that out. And yeah, thank you so much for your time, Sir Robin Landsong. Thank you for everything.
Yes, thank you so much.